John Loss here of Less Archery Adventures. Series testing, successful hunting. I've got another really cool broadhead to test here. I've been waiting to test this head for a while. It's the new Slick Trick Torch. So Slick Trick has just come out with their first rear deploying mechanical broadhead, and it has a lot of cool features to it, like locking blades and single bevels and stuff like that. So we're going to zoom on in here and go through some of the design features and specifications. Then I'm going to put it to the test using all of my tests for 2022. And for that, I'm using my Bowtech CP28 set at 72 pounds for most of the shots. And as well for most of the shots, I'm using Bishop FOC King arrows. And then for the really hard impact shots, I'm using the Bishop Fat Eliminator because they're darn near indestructible, okay? They can really take a licking. So let's zoom on in here and check out this Slick Trick Torch. Here's a good look at the head. I mean, there's a lot of neat features about this. First of all, the materials. The ferrule is aluminum. The tip is made out of titanium, and then the blades are stainless steel. The blades are 0.035 inches thick, so decent thick blades. You notice they're single bevel sharpened. I don't know if that's going to give it rotation. I kind of wouldn't imagine so with the tip, maybe a little bit of one, but it will make them a lot easier to touch up and resharpen because you just basically have to sharpen one side like that. So the way it works is it's like a gator style head that it's pressure put on these two arms that cause the blades to deploy. And let me show you how that works. So when there's pressure put right there, it forces them open like that, and there's a spring that's released that springs them into place. You could see it there, and if you look closely inside, you can see that spring system in there. Now, I do wonder, with this being an aluminum ferrule and being pretty vented, having that spring in there, I wonder how durable the ferrule is going to be. We're going to have to see. But in the open position, you're getting a full 2 inches of cut that way, and then the tip itself is 0.32 inches of cut in the other direction. Now the tip is interesting. It's not just a field point like conical, cone-shaped tip. It has little divots taken out of it, which is interesting, but it's not sharpened on the sides. So I'm interested to see how that penetrates. Really creative design. I love that there's no O-rings, there's no retention clips. I like that it springs into open position. Oh, and one more feature I really like is that the blades lock open. Okay, so that's a great feature that you don't have to worry about them closing as they penetrate because there's not enough pressure or something. They're locked open, but they're not considered barbed because they pull back this way. And that's the way that you close them, is you pull them back that way and then they close and lock into place like that. So I love that locking closed. I love it locking open. And I like that spring deployment. Really interested to see how this torch performs. $200. It penetrated 6 3/4 inches. But I will note that while the blades opened very well in impact, they then closed by the time they hit the gel and remain closed throughout the entire penetration in gel. But that's not uncommon for this style of a head, for gator style heads. Sometimes there's just not enough force on that rubber foam mat in the MDF to be able to get them into their locking position. So I will have to dock them just a little bit because some of that penetration wouldn't have happened if the blades were not open, but it doesn't super concern me for how it would perform on an animal. $275. It penetrated through 55 layers. So once again, the blades deployed really well on the initial impact. But then you can see here in the back of the box, they'd closed up almost all the way. So I know there's a vacuum, like, there's space between the two sides of the box, and maybe that's why they're closing up, but they're not opening and locking on that initial impact. Now, whether or not that's going to happen on an animal, I really don't think it will be a problem on an animal, but I have to point it out here in how it performed in the test. The head is in perfect condition after going through the MDF 3 times. No signs of damage whatsoever. So here's the torch after 2 shots through the steel plate, and on the good side, it held together. You can see the blades stayed intact, and it didn't fall apart, and that's pretty rare for a mechanical through 2 shots of the steel plate. On the bad side, you can see that it bent considerably, and it started to bend on the first shot, but then it really bent a lot more on the second shot. But it did make it through the steel plate. You can see the blades got pretty mangled up and bent up there, the edges, as well as they got bent on the blade length as well. However, again, it held together through 2 shots of the steel plate. And then here you can see the holes that it made in the steel plate. So here's the torch, or what's left of it, after the impact of the concrete. Now typically I wouldn't even do the concrete test with it being bent as badly as it was after the steel round. But then I get a lot of people complaining, going, why don't you shoot it into the concrete anyway? And this just confirms why I don't shoot it into the concrete anyway if it's been severely damaged by the steel, because there's pieces just flying everywhere into my wall and back even behind me. So I expected it to not hold together, but thought I'd just do the test anyway. But it was impressive that it held together through the 2 shots of the steel plate. But with that kind of damage, there's no way it could handle the concrete. So what'd you think of the torch? Hey, I tell you, this is my favorite mechanical that Slick Trick has come out with. I really like the rear deploying design. I like the way the blades lock in place. The durability was pretty good. Okay, it wasn't as good as some, but it was better than most mechanicals. And I'd say it's definitely worth a look. So you check out the score sheet and see how it performed in the areas that matter to you the most. And you can find the score sheet right in the video description. I go through each of the areas and put the score in there and explain the tests as well. But see if it might be a really good fit for you. And stay tuned for the total cumulative score as well as the corresponding LUS grade.